Hi, everyone. It's Jeremiah Desmarais, founder of the Agency Growth Academy. Welcome to today's special training class. I'm really excited to see the incredible response that today's class has gotten. It's actually been one of our highest registrations to date. We actually had to go out and increase our go-to webinar capacity because of the high level of interest on today's topic and our trainer. So I'm really grateful that you made the time to be here today. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. We do want this to be very interactive, so please feel free to post your questions in the question box. And just as a sound check, I'll go ahead and ask you right now, if you can hear my voice, put yes in the question box so that I know you can hear me. Go ahead and do that now, please. Okay, Tony, Sharice, Nate, Eric, Michael, Taryn, Frenchie, Paul, Ken. All right. Okay, all the names are starting to come in. Excellent. Beautiful. All right, looks like we got a good responsive group here. So let me tell you about today's guest. Today's guest is my friend and colleague, Seth Greene. And Seth and I met each other in Denver. We were both invited as speakers to an event that had some of the brightest marketing minds that I've had the privilege of meeting with. New York Times bestselling authors and people who've built million-dollar businesses from scratch with nothing more than a laptop and a phone. And I ended up sitting right next to Seth at dinner for the speaker's dinner. And what he was telling me was so fascinating that I asked him we went aside to a private booth where he kind of broke down his model. And when he finished telling me, I said, you have to come and teach this to my tribe because I think they would absolutely appreciate what you have to share. And it's something that is a twist on one of the strategies that I've taught, but I've never thought of bringing it together the way that Seth does it. And he's just a master at it. So I'm grateful that Seth has made some time to be with us today. Just a little bit about him before we welcome him up. Seth is actually a nationally recognized direct response marketing expert. So for those of you that have been following my teachings, you know direct response is the study of marketing that is designed to do a single thing, and that's to get a response. It's not about branding. It's not about making pretty pictures. It's about getting people to take action. So Seth is somebody that's been on the front lines testing day after day for years what's working right now. He's shared some of his knowledge in 5 different best-selling marketing books. He's been featured on real media like CBS Money Watch, CBS News, the LA Times, Boston Globe, Miami Herald. He was also interviewed on the #1 morning radio show in New York City. He's also been written about in 3 best-selling business books, some of the top industry trade journals. And for those of you that follow Dan Kennedy, he's been in Dan Kennedy's No BS letter. He's helped thousands of advisors around the country generate new clients and referrals for their practice. And I invited him here today to share how he's going to do the same for you. Even if you decide not to buy anything that Seth has, I think that just the strategy alone it blew my mind. Hopefully it will impress you and blow your mind away, even if you want to go and do it yourself. Seth is very, very generous. So Seth, welcome to the call. You have our attention, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. It is a privilege to be here serving your audience. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share something that's working that they can do in their practices that's already working for advisors all over the country.
Great.
So you're about to discuss, the whole point of today's call is to show you how to finally get the referrals you deserve from CPAs and attorneys. And if you stay till the end, I will show you how for free you can get on my top-rated podcast and be interviewed right next to Dan Kennedy, Roland Frazier, Joel Comm, and Jeremiah. And we'll also show you how you can get the first chapter of your book done for free. So make sure you stick around. I'd like to ask that you play full out, turn off your email, turn off your cell phone, turn off social media, because the better notes you take, the better job you'll do of implementing this strategy and getting the referrals you really deserve from CPAs and attorneys. Who am I? Why should you listen to me? Jeremiah covered most of it, so I'll skip this because he was nice enough to share with you some information about me, but it didn't start out that way. I wish I was born, a direct response marketing expert, but I went to Syracuse University as an undergrad. I was an Orangeman, And my original undergraduate degree was in acting. My life goal at the age of 18 was to be a Broadway star. And you sort of see how that worked out. And there's a reason why it didn't, because my senior year, two of my best friends and I decided we were going to be producers. And we produced The Mystery of Edwin Drood, an interactive murder mystery musical by Charles Dickens that none of you have probably heard of. And that's for a very good reason, and it was my first mistake. My second mistake was I knew nothing about marketing at the time. And we formed a student organization. The student government gave us the budget for the show, and I was off to the races. I was a producer. Life was good. Except 6 weeks before opening night, the student government called us in for a meeting, said, we need to talk. And Jeremiah, if anyone has ever called you and said, we need to talk, it's never, it's never good news. You never get a, we need to talk. Your girlfriend never says, we need to talk. It's always, we need to talk, I want to be friends.
Right.
It's never, we need to talk. I never wanted to be friends. I don't know about you. That wasn't the point of the relationship for me. If your boss, when I worked at a wirehouse and my boss said we need to talk, it wasn't, we're going to raise your payout. You're doing such a good job. It was, we're cutting back and you have to share your assistant, stuff like that. So anyway, the student government said our bylaws prohibit us, we made a mistake, from giving a first-year organization so much money. We're taking half your budget back. I said, well, I can't produce the show then. And they said, well, then you're out of luck. And if you ever saw the movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise, you remember this guy, the Admiral, telling Tom Cruise, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash. And that's what I did. I had this brilliant idea. I said to my two friends, let's not close the show. Let's charge the budget for the show on my credit cards. And we'll sell tickets to the show and we'll make our money back. And they said, that's a great idea, Seth, go do it. So I wanted to be a big shot, so I did it. And we produced the show. And unfortunately, I knew nothing about marketing. The show also, no one's ever heard of. So we did not sell very many tickets. And we had a whole bunch of debt left on my credit cards. So I went to my friends and I said, okay, guys, the deal we made was that by graduation, you'd go get credit cards and do balance transfers, and we'd split this 3 ways. Well, they went to their parents and said, hey, Mom and Dad, can we go do this? And their parents, of course, said no. And so I got screwed. I got left holding, they're not my friends anymore, and I got left holding all of the debt on my credit cards. And I had no way to pay it back. I mean, it was more than I made my first couple of years working out of college. So I had no choice, and I had to go Chapter 7. I went bankrupt. And it was probably the worst day of my life, sitting in bankruptcy court, and this old bankruptcy judge looks down his bifocals at me and says, I don't understand this. This says your application is for a musical. Explain this to me. Usually people go bankrupt over medical bills. So that kind of sucked. So I decided maybe I shouldn't be a producer. I'm going to switch careers, and I'm going to go become a financial advisor. Which, that's a logical career shift, right? I mean, if you had just borrowed a bunch of money to gamble on something you knew nothing about, you should go give people financial advice. So I went to work I figured I could tell people not to do that if they were tempted, and that would be my financial advice. So I went to work for A.G. Edwards, which doesn't exist anymore. They got bought out twice. It's a Fortune 500 financial stock brokerage, financial planning company you may remember. And there are 6,700 advisors. I started out as 6,700. I was the bottom. And I get back from training, and my branch manager says, I got a book for you where all of their clients are going to come from your entire career. Awesome, I'm going to buy a Ferrari. I'm 22, this is going to be great. And he reaches behind his desk and literally handed me the phone book and said, they're all in there, Tiger, go get them. I bet you some of you can relate to that. So I didn't know any better. I made 300 cold calls a day, every day for years, interrupting strangers asking for money. And it's not a fun way to build a client base. But something shifted. In my spare time, I am a professional magician. And I had the fortune to be reading a magic trade journal, and there was a full-page ad for a marketing course for magicians. And I didn't have any money because I was cold calling, so I asked my parents, I said, Mom and Dad, will you buy this for me for my birthday? And they said, sure, and got it for me. I used other people's money. And then I implemented the course, and in 30 days, I became the most expensive, busiest magician in Buffalo, where I'm from. So it totally worked. So I went back to the guy who sold me the course, whose name some of you know because he's Dave D. And I said, Dave, would this work in my real job as a financial planner? And he said, yes. And I said, where'd you learn it? And he said, the 2 words that changed my life. He said, Dan Kennedy. So I started buying Dan Kennedy books. I started buying products. I started going to events. And a year or two goes by. I meet and find and marry my wonderful soulmate, my amazing wife Rebecca, who I'll share with you. I'll show you. I'm not going to share her with you. I'll show you her in a minute. You can't have her. She's all mine. And so I'm buying Dan Kennedy stuff, and I finally do a consultation with Dan. And I get to talk to him, and he says, you're doing everything your industry teaches you, which is totally wrong. You shouldn't be cold calling. You shouldn't be mass mailing 15,000 people seminar invitations, and you shouldn't be doing any of that. And I said, great, what do I do? And he said, you write me a really big check, and I'll change your life. Obviously, his pitch was a lot better, but I'm making this shorter so we can get to the content. So I go home to my wife, and I said, honey, a year ago, we got married. 9 months ago, we bought our first house. 3 months ago, we had our first baby. And 3 weeks ago, you quit your job to be a stay-at-home mom, leaving me the sole breadwinner, and I'm cold calling for a living. But I need to go borrow more than our mortgage to go hire this guy, Dan. And she said no. And I came back the next day, asked the same question. She gave me the same answer. I asked the same question every day for 30 days because I'm persistent, and she gave me increasingly more vehement answers with other colorful words inserted in between. And you can fill in the blanks as to what those might have been. But on day 31, she said, you better pray this works. So I hired Dan, and I went in 2 years, from the 6,700th ranked advisor at A.G. Edwards to the top 30 in the country for opening new accounts. So it worked. It worked really, really well. It got me all sorts of media attention, which Jeremiah talked about. And all these advisors were calling me saying, I want to do what you did. I read about you in Registered Rep. I read about you in Insurance News. How do I do this? So I said, Dan, what do I do? And he said, you start a marketing company and do it for him. So I did, and that's Market Domination LLC, which we started 9 years ago. It started out as me and one advisor as my client, and has now grown over the last 9 years to an office building full of a wonderful staff and servicing, I guess, thousands of clients all around the planet, all around the globe, literally. So this stuff works. So what I'm going to teach you is how to get referrals from CPAs and attorneys, because if you've tried it, you know it usually doesn't work. Because I took them to lunch. Oh, we got a client in common. Let's get together and talk about our businesses. I bought lunch. I bought dinner. I bought breakfast. I did CE credits. I did everything. I bought system after system in our marketplace that was supposed to teach you how to do this that didn't work. So what works is you've got to make it about them. They're never going to refer to you if the only reason is because you say you're going to do a good job for their client. Every advisor says that. There's no way to make you stand out. So I hear all the time, CPAs and attorneys won't refer, but they will if it's in their best interest. So you can't just say, I give good customer service, I'm going to do a good job for your clients. Everybody says that. You've got to do something differently, and I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. So this is John Cito. He's a client of ours, and he's a certified divorce financial analyst. And he wanted referrals from divorce attorneys in New Jersey, where he is. And he had tried sending fruit baskets and flowers and presents and calling and could get nowhere. No luck whatsoever. And I said, that's because you're chasing them. You've got to make them chase you. So how do you make them chase you? You're going to interview them for a book. So John writes a book called New Jersey Divorce Experts, and John interviews them for his book. Why would they want to be in the book? Because they're a divorce attorney. They want to be an expert in the book. They want more exposure. They want more clients. They want the ego stroke of being in a book. And now when the book comes out, they each buy a couple hundred copies because they're in it, and they hand them out to their clients and say, look at me, I'm fabulous, I'm in a book. But what do the clients do? The clients read the book, and then those looking for a second opinion on their insurance or investments or financial advice call John. And the remarkable thing is they say, my attorney told me to talk to you. And that's not what happened. The attorney said, look at me in this book, I'm fabulous. But the client, to them, it's the same thing as going, you should call this guy. Because why would the attorney have given me the book if he didn't think this guy was good? So the attorney doesn't think, I'm referring my clients to John. He thinks I'm showing them how good they are. I am, because I'm in this book. Does that make sense? I'm assuming there's a yes there.
Yeah,
so
no, I was on mute. You go so fast. I just want to make sure that the audience got that, because that is the essence of such a genius strategy. Here you are giving preeminence to others, making them feel special, excuse me, and then conversely, by turning that into a book, you have elevated them, excuse me, you have elevated them, and in the process, you've elevated yourself, but not just to them, but also to their tribes, their audiences, their desired clients. I know we're going to explore that, but it bears repeating twice, simply because I think the idea is so profound. And for
Well,
those of
thank
you
you.
that have the light bulb going off right now, I can see that you're very excited. We're getting good comments here. But I
Yeah,
just,
I can't see the chat box, so if there's
yeah,
questions, please interrupt and read them to me because I can't see it.
yeah, yeah. As questions come in, I'll be bringing them up. But I just want to make sure that everybody kind of got that idea, and has seized it, so we can move on as we go a little further.
Awesome. Okay. So another thing I hear is CPAs and attorneys can't refer because it would alienate their other advisors. Oh, I can't refer to you. I'm still a practicing advisor, still at Series 7, Series 66, RIA, annuities, life insurance, mutual funds, commission, stocks. So I keep my license and keep my practice because I want to be in the trenches. I can't bring you something that, I did 10 years ago. I've got to be on the cutting edge of stuff that's working in my practice and everyone else's practice that works with us right now. So I used to hear that the CPA would say, well, I can't, if I send referrals to, lots of advisors send me business. If I send referrals to you, they won't send me business anymore. You've probably heard that. But it's a crock because they're not referring to those advisors now. It's not like one advisor is getting 20 referrals from them a month. It's just an excuse they give. So there's no way it's an issue. Now, here's the thing. If that CPA was asked, so let's say Brad is my competition as an advisor, and the CPA, Brad says, hey, Mr. CPA, you haven't sent me a referral in a while. The CPA can say, well, this guy Seth wrote about me in a book, and I gave away copies of it to my clients, and I guess they're not calling you because they must be calling him, and I'm sorry about that, but you didn't write about me in a book. Like, it's totally defensible. So the CPA has an out. It's where the client can't be pissed. The other advisors, if they were referring, couldn't be pissed because they didn't write about them in a book. So they're off. The CPA is off the hook. This is, so it doesn't matter what niche you're in. So I showed you John Cito's New Jersey divorce book. This is Estate Planning Experts Atlanta. So the interviews were estate planning attorneys, CPAs who do estate tax returns. We even interviewed nursing home directors. We interviewed grief experts. We interviewed all sorts of people who saw people planning their estates or dealing with that type of stuff. And then, of course, they buy copies. They hand it out. My client got a phone, our client who wrote the book got a phone call last week from the grief psychologist who said, I want to get this message out in front of more people. Can I buy more books? I ran out, which is, of course, exactly what we want to hear. Another myth I get is you have to send a CPA or an attorney a lot of referrals to get their attention. If you just go onesie twosie, it's not really going to do any good. They're not going to love you anymore because of it. If you do, if you do a seminar and they don't have to bring any clients and you put them in a room full of your clients, then maybe you'll get attention. It's not true. You just have to appeal to their ego. Because if you know, Mary Kay, the makeup company, says what people want more than money and sex is recognition and fame. And if you're writing a book and including them in it, you're giving them recognition and fame in their local market, which they want way more than one advisor buying them lunch because they sent them a referral. So I did tell you this is my wife, Rebecca. These are our three kids, Ella, Lily, and Max from left to right. Ella is 7, Lily is 3, and Max is now 9. They are the reason why I do what I do. And then this is just a side note. These are 8 of the 750 third world entrepreneurs we've been able to help as a company. We make microloans through kiva.org to help third world entrepreneurs start or grow businesses so they can get out of poverty. I can't fit 750 on one slide, but we donate a percentage of our profits to Kiva to help these entrepreneurs get out of poverty because I think it's business owners like us that are going to save the world, not anything our government's going to do no matter who gets elected. So steps to a successful book. So you need a concept and a name. So I showed you divorce. I showed you estate. You could do how to make smart choices with your money and make it more generic. You could I mean, it just depends. We've got a client doing a book on Medicaid planning because he's a Medicaid expert. You could do a book on long-term care. I mean, you could make it, spin it however you want. How you're going to get the book done without writing it yourself is you're going to interview the CPAs, attorneys, and whatever other experts you want. So you need interview questions. You shouldn't wing it, and you should practice, and we'll help you with that. But it should be scripted in such a way that it gives the attorney or the CPA the best chance to show off and tell their story and why they're fabulous, because otherwise they won't promote the book as much. If they feel, the better they feel about how good they'll look in the interview, the more likely they are to promote it more heavily. And then, of course, you need guests. You need people that you want to interview, whatever type of professional that is. People ask all the time, how do we record the interview? So if you're doing it in person, you could just go to Office Depot and spend 20 bucks and buy like a little Olympus digital voice recorder, and that will do just fine. If you're doing it over the phone, you could use a call recorder iPhone app that I'll show you that is free, that works really well. You could use Skype, GoToWebinar that we're on right now, Google Hangout, freeconferencecall.com. It doesn't really matter. What you just want is a decent quality MP3 audio file. It doesn't have to be stellar. You just have to be able to understand what each of you is saying in order to record the interview.
Hey, Seth, just to back up for a second,
Yep.
Tony's got a good question. He's saying, how many CPAs or attorneys in a more or less rural community, university town, maybe you got a total of 200,000 people within 25 miles, or does it matter if you find one or two who are the most influential and the most busy?
So one or two won't make a book. So this is a bookstore length book. It's not like an e-book that's like 10 pages. So our goal, because they won't hand that out, so our goal is to be exactly the same as a book on finance, like that they would find at Barnes & Noble. So 2 interviews isn't going to get you 150, 200 pages. So usually our advisors are finding it takes, depending on how chatty your guests are and how good an interviewer you are, and we'll help you practice, it takes between 10 to 20 interviews to make a book. So, for example, I have one client who did an interview and the transcript was 4 pages. And I have another client who did one, same exact questions, and the interview is 20 pages. Because she took the answers that the CPA gave and asked more questions that weren't on the script. Like it inspired her to have more of a conversation. So she's a better interviewer than my first client who read the script verbatim, and the CPA was not very chatty, and he didn't do anything to draw that CPA out. So you get the first interview you do isn't going to be the best one. The best one you do is going to be your last one. So you'll get better as time goes on, and that's why we help you practice. Because, I mean, you don't have to be Oprah, but you've got to be able to have a conversation, because then it will go longer. And again, they're more likely to promote it if there are 20 pages in a book as opposed to 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one thing I'll add to that, Tony, is I asked Tony offline if he could give me his zip code. So what I did, Tony, is I went to LinkedIn. For those of you that are working with us in our LinkedIn program, Seth and I are collaborating where we're taking the strategies that we teach here at the Academy on LinkedIn and bringing his podcasting / book strategy here. And I just ran a search, and there are 590 attorneys within 25 miles of you right now, and that's just the ones on LinkedIn, and there's 414 CPAs for you there, Tony. So you've probably got more than enough, more people than you think that you could interview. That's just on LinkedIn, and I'd say there's probably
right,
2 or 3.
He's not counting like the Bar Association directory and the CPA Association directory, and obviously that's just every attorney. That doesn't narrow it down by specialty. Like, do you want divorce, estate, elder care, long-term, what type of attorney do you want? But yeah, I mean, even 1,000 to pull from right there, and if all you need is 20, that's not a very high response rate.
Yeah, so that's all in around the Gainesville area there, Tony. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for the clarification, Seth.
Yeah, good question. So this is the Call Recorder app. If you go to the App Store and type in Call Recorder, this is the one you want. It is free, and then you just pay for airtime. So you might spend like 10 bucks a month on minutes. And again, this is if you're doing it over the phone and you don't want to use, freeconferencecall.com or Skype or something like that. How this app particularly works, it's got one screen. You buy credits, that's the airtime. You hit the record button, which is the big red button, and I don't get paid for recommending the app, by the way. Um, it dials, then you pick the person you want to interview off your list, you call them, and then you hit the record button. And then when you're done, you hang up. And that's the app. It's relatively simple if you want to use an app to do it. So the steps to a successful book are obviously.
Let me pause right
Yep.
there because we got another great question from Gary. He says, why would a CPA or an attorney pass out the book that has perhaps 15 to 20 other CPAs and attorneys in it? I'm sure you've run into that one before, Seth.
All the time. Yep, great question. So the reason why they would do that is because they're not thinking that, so they're sending it to their clients. And what I'm gonna show you is we write a marketing campaign for the attorney that goes with the book when they mail it out. So we write it in their voice for them to send out, that talks about the book project and talks about why they're in it and why they're sending it to their client, has a post-it note on their chapter. So if they're honestly worried that their clients are going to read about somebody else and switch, then they're probably not the right attorney or the right attorney or CPA you want anyway. If they're that insecure, they should think, hey, I got a good relationship with my client and I'm sending them something that has me in it. That's cool, as opposed to worrying that they're going to lose people because they're going to read some other chapter and that guy looks better than me. So we haven't honestly run into that as an issue. I mean, every advisor asks that question because as advisors, we don't get it. Would you want to be in a book with 20 other advisors? Your initial response might be no. But you should be, because let's say it's the secrets of successful financial advisors. Your clients aren't going to switch to somebody else who's in the book, and you're in it, so you look good. So, I mean, we've never had any pushback on it except advisors asking the question, but no CPA or attorney has ever said, no, I'm not doing it because other people are in it.
Yeah.
So you're going to repeat the process and do enough interviews until you've got a book. How the interviews turn into books is we take the audio file and transcribe them and then edit the transcription, and that's each one is a chapter. And then, of course, you need an introduction. It's a real book, so you need like an introduction and a conclusion with a call to action telling them, how to get a hold of you and what your offer is. Come to a seminar, come to a workshop, go to my website, schedule a consultation, whatever you want them to do. And then, of course, you need chapters about you, which we help you write, about who you are, your story, how you serve your clients, and how you differentiate yourself for other advisors and why people should pick you. And then, of course, we want to get copies into the hands of the CPAs and attorneys, and then we want to get them to buy more copies of the book and send them out to get you in front of their clients, which is obviously ultimately the goal and is how it turns into referrals. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That to me is and are you gonna talk about how we use the podcasting strategy too?
Yeah, so the audio interview you've got, it depends on the broker dealer or the compliance department for each advisor. So you can just record the interviews, turn them into a book, and do that by itself, and that will get you the results you're looking for. If your compliance department will let you, depending on what firm you're at, you can also take that audio and turn it into a podcast. And we produce the podcast, which is like a radio show, but on your phone, on iTunes. We produce the introduction, so it sounds like a real radio show. We produce the cover art, and we help it rank in iTunes so it shows up higher for your keywords in your area. And then you have a finance show, on iTunes every week while you're doing the project. And then you can get the CPA and attorney because the show will be done before the book will be done, because you'll have a show when your first episode is done. So you could have your CPAs and attorneys start emailing out and putting on social media that they were on your show and driving their clients to your show in advance of the book coming out, a month or two later. So then you get a double bang for your buck because they promoted your show and then they promoted your book on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Let's slow it down just for a sec because we're getting a ton of great questions here. So let's go to you, Mark. Mark, you're asking, what are the top points of the marketing campaigns for the attorney and how they use it? So you'd referenced before, Seth, that you write a campaign, let's say for the 20 attorneys in the book or the mix of people that are, making up your panel of experts.
Yes.
What is it that you do for them that they can take away and just, help to get the message out, which in turn gets, of course, you, or in this case, Mark's brand out there.
Yes. So we will write a direct mail campaign for John, the attorney, to send to his clients with a copy of the book to tell them about the book and what they should do next, why the book is fabulous, why they did it, and who Mark is. So we write that for the attorney or the CPA to send out with the book to their clients, because if we told them to do it, well, we tried it. We told them to write that. We originally told them to write something, and nobody did it.
Yeah, right.
It's like pulling. So when we wrote it for them and said, here, it's already done for you, they said, oh, this is great. And they all sent, all you got to do is print it, mail merge it on your letterhead. They're like, oh, my secretary knows how to do that. No problem. And they sent it. And nobody has ever, it's funny, we've never had an attorney or CPA come back and say, can you change this? Can you rewrite it? Now, technically they could. We offer them, hey, if you want to make any changes, let me know. But no one's ever asked one of our advisors, hey, this is too, I don't like this letter. Can somebody rewrite the thing?
Yeah.
Again, it makes the attorney or the CPA look good.
Absolutely. And most entrepreneurs today have nothing newsworthy to share other than, why aren't you calling me to do business with me?
Right.
Like they're just sitting there waiting for a call or an email that will be a lead. So anytime somebody comes to them with a pre-done marketing campaign where they don't have to think, they just have to send out and mail merge, it's like, oh, wow, thanks. So that's another way that you differentiate yourself as a financial advisor, as a life insurance agent, as a commercial lines producer. Because I know I'm looking at the names here. I know there's wonderful people here on the call from all different disciplines. It's not just for financial advisors. If you're a group benefits producer, and you could go out and interview CEOs and have CEOs send this to their clients. You could if you're commercial lines, same thing. You could do that. I have my dear friend Leslie here on the line. She's already has her book. She works with high net worth people. Well, you could interview high net worth people in a certain area. She's in a very affluent area of California. If you are, let's say you do home and auto, you could interview people making a difference in the neighborhood who have massive followings on social media. They're really easy to find.
You could, for home and auto, you could also, it's funny, you mentioned that, they could interview other people. They could interview the real estate agents, the mortgage brokers. They could interview the car dealers and the mechanics and the auto body shops.
That's right.
Think about who's seeing your ideal client besides you. Those are the people you want to interview to leverage their clients into your clients.
That's the key. Let's keep going because we got a lot of questions. Ben, he's asking, are there other people on the phone? I think you mean phone call, Ben, not phone book. Are there other people on the phone call when you're doing it? So I think, yeah, right. It's one. It's you
and the attorney or you and the CPA. That's it. One at a time.
Andy's asking, sorry, I don't get it. How do we insert ourselves into the book? So Andy's thinking, okay, we're going to have what?
You're the author of the book. Yeah, Andy's the author of the book. The CPAs are in it. Andy controls all of the content in the book, and Andy has several chapters in his own book about him because it's his book. He's got as much real estate as he wants to talk about how wonderful he is.
Yeah, so just a practical example, Andy, is Seth could help you craft the first 3 chapters are about you, your story, and then you go into the the perspectives of your esteemed colleagues, and then you close it out with you, Andy. So you're the only person on the cover of the book. I know, Seth, you had some pictures, and every picture of the sample books you had, it was always the person on the book. No other names were on the book. So Andy, I hope that clears it up. Margie's saying, are you charging the people who are featured in the chapters of the books?
No, if you do, they won't do it. They won't respond because then they think it's a marketing gimmick. So the whole point of this, that's funny, in one of our marketing campaigns to the guests for you, to the attorneys, we say this is not a marketing gimmick. This is a real book. We're a real publishing company. There is no cost. Because that's their first question is do I have to pay to be in this book? And if you say yes, a very small percentage will do it. Most of them won't do it. But no, if you're doing it, no, this is a real book. There's no cost, then they respond. So no, you're not charging them because then they won't do it.
Stephen's asking how long this process takes. So why don't you give us 2 examples, Seth? What have you seen people take when they do it? What have you seen when you do it?
Perfect. So here, for example, if we do it, we do the research to find the guests, the CPAs and attorneys that are the related professionals that you want. We send them our marketing campaign to get them to do the interview. We write the interview questions and edit the audio. We transcribe and edit every one. We'll air it as a podcast for free if you're allowed to have a podcast. We'll do the graphic design, layout, and publishing of your book. We market and promote the book. We provide the marketing materials to go out to everyone in the book and for them to send to their clients, all driving, we hope, a ton of referrals for your way. So on average, how long that takes is about 4 months. The first month is us talking to you, figuring out who we're going after, creating the marketing campaign, doing your chapters as well, so you get practice being interviewed and interviewing. And then the next couple months are you doing all the interviews and us writing the book. So on average, it takes about 4 months from the day you engage us to the day the book comes out and is in the hands of the CPAs and attorneys.
Well, just tell them this one thing. I mean, this to me is such this is like taking it to a new level. And by the way, Seth, we got a lot of questions, so there's still a lot of people. Stephen, Mark, Margie, Jay, we're going to get to you guys. But I want you to take us a year down the road and just tell us about this mastermind thing. To me, that is so smart as a strategy. Some of our listeners today could do this today, but maybe have the lack of confidence because they don't have a book. Tell us a little bit about how the mastermind concept works.
Sure. So, okay, so all right, so the mastermind concept, I got to skip ahead. Hang on. Where is it? Okay, so first we do a book launch party when the book comes out, where all of the CPAs, attorneys, whoever's in the book, they bring their spouses, they invite clients, we provide invitations at a nice restaurant, everybody comes, everybody signs copies of the books, we try and get the local media to cover it, it's a big party, and you most likely are probably going to get business right there. But the follow-up is if you keep going with us after the 4 months are up, we'll do a book mastermind group, and what that means is everybody in the book gets together every single month, let's say for lunch, a different person will talk about their practice that month, and it's kind of like a BNI meeting. Referrals get passed back and forth. You're the only financial advisor in the room because it's your book. So, of course, all of the financial advisor referrals are going to come your way. And if you're seeing them every single month, they're going to buy more copies. They're going to promote it more. We've had advisors who now they're doing seminars with different people from the book. They're doing other events with people from the book. We have one advisor, the CPA beyond the book, sent out a letter to every single one of her clients endorsing him, saying you should really call him for this special, wealth guard service he's got. Here's a phone number that's trackable, so we know how many people came from the letter. But she literally mailed every single one of her clients on his behalf, and this was months after the book. So it was all because of the repeated seeing each other every single month turns into a whole lot more business.
Yeah, I find that so genius. It's a way to keep these ideal referral partners tightly engaged with each other, and you being that center hub that they all see as the preeminent kind of leader of the group. So that again raises the level of esteem they have for you. Seth, quick time check. I know we've got both a hard stop here at the top of the hour. I've got a lot of questions. Do you want me to fire the questions away at you, or do you want to go back?
Yeah, just fire the questions. So let me if you're interested to have us do it for you, the URL is ultimatemarketingmagician.com/Jeremiah. Jeremiah will put that in the chat box, and we'll obviously email it out. And if you want to get on my show, which of course gets the first chapter of your book done because I interview you and you get practice being on the other side of the mic and seeing what it's like, we'll do that for you regardless of whether you hire us or not. If you go to ultimatemarketingmagician.com/podcast-guests, you can fill out a form to be on our show. So yeah, fire away with questions.
Okay, so we handled that question for Stephen. How do we make the connect? Here's from Mark. How do we make the connection from I'm a great author and interviewer to I'm a great financial advisor? How is that done?
Honestly, you don't even have to, because they're promoting themselves when they promote the book. They're not going out and they don't think of it as promoting an advisor. They think of it as promoting themselves, and they just happen to take you along for the ride. Now, obviously, you do have to be good at what you do, because if their clients start hiring you and you piss them off, they're going to call the CPA and say, hey, why'd you send me to this guy? Mm-hmm. But obviously, if you do a good job, we've got a campaign that goes from the client to send a letter to said CPA saying how fabulous you are, which of course, and thanking them for sending them the book, which of course encourages them to send out even more books and send even more clients your way.
Yeah. Margie's got a question. Hey, Margie. Margie is actually a prolific writer herself. She writes for several national publications and is a frequent speaker and an expert in the field of long-term care. She says, for example, for long-term care, what would the overall theme of the book be, and what would the contributors talk about?
Okay, so long-term care, the theme might be how to protect your assets from a nursing home, or how to get stiff the nursing home when you need to check in, or how to get whatever the concept is. But you'd be interviewing like elder care, estate, and Medicaid planning attorneys. You'd interview that. We have a Medicaid planner who's doing a book now where he's interviewing one of the people he's interviewing other than the lawyers and the accountants. He's interviewing all of the nursing homes.
Hmm.
And so now the nursing homes are handing out the book to new resident people who come in on a tour. So he's
Wow.
getting referrals from the nursing homes before people even check in.
Hmm. Another thing, Margie, I'm just thinking because I know your background a little bit. Another strategy could be estate planning and elder care strategies when they matter most. Something like that.
Yeah.
Seth.
I mean, we'll help you wordsmith the
Yeah,
title.
exactly. But I've just giving you some ideas because you could focus on the care part where it's more about providing care, and part of that care is financial care. So that's why you get the attorneys. Part of that is legal care. Part of that is actual physical care, right? So you could have something of that nature.
You could do
Uh,
emotional. You could do some psychologists who are talking about how to make the transition and not be depressed and stuff.
hmm. Yeah, exactly. Great question, Margie. Let's move on to Ben. Ben says, let's see. Okay, he was just clarifying his statement earlier. Leslie's asking, the CPAs need to buy the book, right? We aren't giving them away?
Correct. That's totally up to you. We don't make any money printing books. So we charge you whatever our print cost is. It might be $5 or $6 a copy, depending on how many. The more you print, the cheaper it gets. We've had advisors get it down to $2 or $3 because they bulked all the orders together. So we tell you to charge the cost, don't make any money on it, because then they'll buy more copies and get it out to more people, which is what you want.
Hmm.
The back of the book will say that it's $14.95 or $24.95 or whatever price you want it to say. But if you wanted to charge the CPA to buy copies, you could, but then they will send out a lot fewer of them than if you, yes, so the CPA buys the copies and mails them out. We have had advisors who bought them for them because they were top producers and had the money and wanted to make it even more of a no-brainer. You
Hmm.
could also mark up the book and charge them more money. I just wouldn't recommend it because we want as many copies out there as possible.
Yeah, and let's be really pragmatic. The purpose of having the book is not to make money off the sales of the
Right.
book. It's to get
Yeah.
access to the level of clients that you want and put yourself in the preferred, um, view of the CPAs and the attorneys. Okay, so Margie, hopefully that answered your second question. And she's asking also, what's the monetary investment to have all of this done for you?
It's $4,000, 1,000 a month for 4 months, and then if you want to keep going after that and do like us facilitating the book mastermind group and a whole bunch of other stuff, then it keeps going. But the book itself is 4,000. You can pay over 4 months, $1,000 a month for 4 months.
Great. Steven's asking, how many books have to go out for referral?
There's no, I wish I had a finite number. It's been different for every advisor. We've had advisors who got, who a couple hundred books went out and they got business. We've had advisors that it took more. I think part of it depends on the marketplace. If you're in New York City, it might take more than if you're in Buffalo.
Hmm.
And it depends on the attorney and the CPA's relationship with their client. Like if they haven't talked to them in 5 years and they get a book out of the blue, they're probably not going to pick up the phone and call you. They might call the CPA and go, "Why haven't you called me?" If they have a relationship with that person, you'll get a better response rate. It's just going to vary. There's no way to know that. I wish there was. My crystal ball is not that good.
Leslie's asking, she liked that question on long-term care. What would be some interview topics for somebody that specializes in 1031 exchanges, which are,
Yep,
real
I
estate
know what those. Yep.
and
So then you'd be
property?
wanting to interview real estate people, right?
Mhm.
So you might interview real estate brokers. You might real estate mortgage brokers, real estate brokers, home inspectors, real estate investment experts. We're actually producing 2 real estate podcasts right now. They're national podcasts, and they're on like people who invest in they're not by financial advisors. They're by guys who sell how to get rich in real estate courses or software.
Hmm.
But you could totally do that just in your local market.
Andy's asking, could you apply this same concept to articles written in national publications, or is a book the way to go? So meaning, I think, Andy, you're saying, would we go out and interview attorneys and then write the article under our name and put them in national publications, I believe is Andy's question. I'm taking a stab, Andy, but I think that's what you're asking.
Okay, so that sounds. Why would I'm not sure I understand the question. I wouldn't I wouldn't post something as an article that I didn't write because it's an
No, I
interview.
think he's thinking like, do I take the interview transcription and create that as an article and submit it to, let's say, niche
Yeah, that you
publications
could
like
do as
Attorney
long as you
Today or
cite the
something?
source. Yeah,
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 that you
yeah.
could do.
Hmm.
We haven't
Okay.
had anybody do that. That's actually an interesting idea.
Yeah, very
We've
good.
had people who used it for social media, for use each chapter as a blog post
Mhm.
and social media content, but I never had anybody use it as an article, try to get it placed, which actually that's a whole another service we could come up with.
Yeah, Margie's getting really excited. She says brilliant idea because she writes for magazines all the time.
And you
Andy
don't have to
goes,
write anything. That's great.
yeah, Andy goes, you were on the same page with me, Jeremiah. Thanks. Okay, Andy, I was picking up what you're putting down. Okay, good. Um, Doug's asking, how do we get a copy of a sample book? Do you have a way to get that?
Sure. If you shoot me an email, I will send you a PDF version. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know that you've got, what's your email address, Seth?
Seth at marketdominationprogram.com, and I just put that in the chat box to you, Jeremy, if you want to put it out to everybody else. And I will send everybody an email tomorrow as well, thanking you for attending and giving you the link. So if you reply back and say, can I see a sample, I will get you one.
Okay, so there you go, everyone. I just put Seth's email in there if you want to talk to him.
Or if you have other questions.
Yeah. Leslie's curious, how many printed books are included in the 4,000?
None. We don't make any money selling books, so it's not like you pay $4,000 and get the first 100 copies free. Because again, we don't make any money on the books, so you can buy as many as you want at cost, but we don't include a whole bunch of them.
Right. So you basically you just pass on the cost to directly and
Yeah, we're not marking it up at all.
yeah. So the way I think about it, Leslie, I mean, I know your market intimately, but I'll do this for everyone else too. Think about this. Let's say, what's the average cost of a book, Seth? $3, $4?
Depends on how many, between 3 and 6.
Okay. So let's say you go ahead and you buy 100 books at $6. That's $600. The CPA sends out 20 books because they don't have a lot of clients. So what did that cost you? 120, and you get one new client. You have $120 cost per acquisition for a
Yeah.
client that you probably will make at least 2,000 if you're doing even the smallest life policy, all the way up to hundreds of thousands depending on, what type of services you provide. So
Right, think about that. I mean, if the total cost to get this done is $4,000 and you spend a couple more grand on books, I
mhm,
mean, it doesn't take too much. I mean, PNC, you might need more volume, but I mean, if you're financial, I mean, you're doing insurance, annuities, or I mean, you get a couple clients and you more than made your money back.
exactly. Yeah. Steven's asking, do prospects call the CPA and attorney to get in touch with me, or do they call me directly? So I think, Steven, what you're
No, they
saying
call
is,
you directly.
yeah, because Stephen, what's happening is they're getting this book. You're on the cover. You have all the chapters with your wisdom laced throughout. You have your
And your
full
contact
contact
info.
information in there. That's it. The only way these people, the people you're interviewing, are asked for their expertise. We don't put all their contact information and everything in there. Only yours is in there. Did I get that, Seth?
Yeah, you could put the CPA's contact info, you could put the source's contact info at the end of their chapter if you want, but that's up to you.
Yeah. Okay. Um, well, I think that's all the questions we had right now. That was a lot. And I know we both have a hard stop here. Seth, anything else we should know about this program or even about this
Uh,
concept that's helpful to know?
it's working really well. The if it turns out we have somebody in your marketplace already, and if you sign up and your marketplace is too small to support multiple advisors, then I'll just cancel you and refund your money. Because there have been I mean, in New York City, we could do dozens probably of advisors. But if it's a really, really small town, and I have one advisor in a really, really, really small town, and it's hard enough getting him fed. Like I'm talking super rural, like Cowtown rural.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll tell you, and we'll just cancel you and refund your money.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, there's ghostwriting services available that, go anywhere from $5 to $100,000 that will only do the book. But what Seth is doing here to me is really on another level for such an incredibly affordable price. Um, the fact that you guys are gonna be helping them reach out to these people. You've got access to the lists. You know where to go to get the direct contact information. You guys are helping them find these people, coaching them on the interview so they really feel like they're the expert. Taking that interview, transcribing it, giving you all this great content you can now use for social media. These are great tweets, blog posts. You can put them on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You can use them as emails, the party, the mastermind. I mean, to me, it's a no. This is kind of one of those no-brainer type deals where you and I both know we're not going to sit down and write a book. I happen to enjoy writing, so my book, was written by me. It's coming out very soon. But most of us just don't enjoy that process. But we can talk all day long about what we love. So to have somebody just do this for $1,000 a month, Seth, I think is real generous. And I'm really thrilled that we got so many people here interested in a program like that. And I know, Doug, you're asking about the replay. We're not going to be posting a replay for this. We did copy your email address down. We'll make sure that we get that to Seth, and then Seth can give you the replay because Seth will have a copy of that. So you'll be able to have that, Doug, not a problem. Great. He says thanks. Okay. So listen, Seth, Margie's saying his price is very, very reasonable. She paid a book designer, just a designer, over $1,000. Plus, it's very time consuming to edit and be involved in the production. And that's a writer. This is someone who's an accomplished writer saying that. So way to go, Seth, for a great package. And thank you for putting this together for our tribe here. Folks, Seth has my absolute endorsement. If you're wondering whether maybe this is the first time you're meeting Seth, I got to tell you, he only comes with the highest recommendations. To me personally, I've sat down, I met with him, and I'm actually working with him on several projects that are outside of this. By the way, for those of you that are working with our teams on LinkedIn marketing, can you imagine how powerful it is to reach out to people via LinkedIn, tell them you're an author, and Seth can even show you ways to become a best-selling author so that this book becomes a bestseller. So now you're a best-selling author, and you're looking for the decision maker, and your ask is, I'd like to send you a copy of my book. What's your physical mailing address? To bypass the doorkeeper. I mean, what an amazing way to do that. So there's just so many different angles to take this. Your initial meetings, instead of dropping a business card, you have that authoritative thud of putting your book on the table. When they say, "Can I have your cards?" I'll do you one better. Here's my book. Just how much authority does that have? When you compare that with what your competitors are probably doing, just sliding over a little business card or a little brochure, and you've got an entire book with other leaders that they respect, right in your market demographic. So nicely done, Seth. I love how you've combined social proof, preeminence, book authorship and authority building, power connections by getting them introductions to people that probably wouldn't give them the time of day, or just looking at you as just another advisor or agent. Excellent program, Seth. Well done.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Happy to serve your audience. Looking forward to helping them.
Very good. Well, Seth, thanks again for being here. We're getting lots of favorable comments here in the question box, and thank you everyone for being here. If you're interested, go to ultimatemarketingmagician.com/Jeremiah. You can sign up there. Seth's email, you can also reach him directly using the email that's in the chat box if you have more questions and want to get on the phone with them. And Seth will be sending out a little gift to everybody. I think tomorrow your email is going out, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so look for an email from Seth Greene in your inbox. There will be a special gift that Seth is going to be sending to everybody here, whether you decide to join the program or not. Once again, Seth, on behalf of the entire Agency Growth Academy tribe, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom. And everyone else, have a wonderful rest of the day. We wish you continued success. Stay humble and hustle hard. Bye-bye.